This video presentation was developed to provide basic food safety information for people and groups who serve food to the public on a limited basis. If you will be serving food to the public, you must contact your local health department to determine if you will require a license for the food service. The information provided in these videos does not meet the training requirements detailed in the Wisconsin Food Code for operators of licensed food establishments. At the end of this video, there will be a brief quiz to test your food safety knowledge. Corresponding fact sheets are available if you see a green X symbol in the upper right corner of the screen. Check the links in the description or on our website to download. Importance of food safety. The majority of foodborne illnesses are caused by biological hazards, such as bacteria, viruses, or parasites. An example of a biological hazard would be getting E. coli after consuming raw or undercooked beef. Chemical hazards are natural toxins found in foods or accidental contamination from a toxic chemical. An example would be someone spraying an insecticide in the same area as exposed food. Physical hazards are fragments of metal, glass, or plastic found in food. An example could be metal fragments found in cooked chicken. Foodborne illness can strike any of us. However, certain groups of people have a higher risk of becoming ill. Those people include children under the age of 5, adults over the age of 65, pregnant women, and those with weakened immune systems. Foodborne outbreaks do occur often and everywhere. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that about 48 million, or 1 in every 6 Americans, experience foodborne illness each year. Most outbreaks of food poisoning include only a few people, but some can grow to include hundreds or even thousands of people getting sick. Let's review a few case studies of foodborne outbreaks. Case study number 1. In June of 2011, Racine County Public Health Division received 2 separate reports of several individuals getting sick after attending a party. Within hours, the number of reports grew quickly. Following a complete outbreak investigation, a total of 237 people were reported sick. Although no single food item or ingredient was identified, each report was linked to a single caterer that had catered multiple events. The biological hazard norovirus was isolated in several of the victims' stool samples. It was concluded that the outbreak was most likely caused by inadequate hand washing by a food employee who had been caring for a sick child at home. With norovirus, most recover within a few days. Some other foodborne illnesses can have more serious consequences, as in our next case study. Case study number 2. In July of 2000, over 500 people became ill in Milwaukee County after eating at the Sizzler restaurant. Dozens were hospitalized, and 1 child died. An identical strain of E. coli bacteria was isolated from the victim's stool and from samples of raw beef products found at the restaurant. It was concluded this E. coli outbreak was caused when employees cross-contaminated a fresh watermelon with raw meat products. Foodborne outbreaks are not always associated with a restaurant. Food safety practices should be followed at home and private events too. Case study number 3. In 2015, a medical center in Ohio identified a patient suspected of having botulism. Botulism is a severe illness that attacks the nerves, making it hard to breathe, paralyzing muscles, and can even cause death. Within hours of the health department's notification, 11 more patients with similar clinical features arrived at the emergency department. Later that afternoon, 1 patient died of respiratory failure. All of the victims had eaten at the same widely attended church potluck meal 2 days earlier. Lab testing confirmed the presence of botulism. Health officials concluded the source of the outbreak was likely due to potato salad made with home-canned potatoes served at the church potluck. This was the largest botulism outbreak in the U.S. in nearly 40 years, and another example of the importance of food safety. The remainder of this video will provide information to help you prepare and serve foods safely not only at home, but to the public as well. Remember, food that is mishandled can have very serious consequences. Health and hygiene. Food safety starts with the person who is preparing the food. Foodborne illnesses can easily be transferred from a person to the food they are preparing. For this reason, it is extremely important that all food handlers understand and follow the rules regarding health and hygiene. Rule number 1. Food handlers may not work with the food or food equipment if they are sick with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever with sore throat, or jaundice. Rule number 2. Food handlers may not work if they have been diagnosed with a foodborne illness such as norovirus, hepatitis A, Shigella, E. coli, or Salmonella. Rule number 3. Food handlers should always wash their hands prior to any food preparation and anytime their hands become contaminated. Good hand washing is essential in preventing the spread of foodborne illnesses. Hand washing should always take place at the designated hand washing station. If a hand washing sink is not available in the food service area, you must provide a temporary hand washing station. The hand washing station must include a container with a minimum of 5 gallons of warm water and a free-flowing valve. Many insulated beverage, coffee, and camping water dispensers have this type of valve. Containers or dispensers with a push-button valve are not allowed. The hand washing station should also include liquid or foam hand soap, paper towels, a wastewater container, and a trash can. Remember to always wash your hands at the designated hand washing station. Wet your hands with water, then lather your hands and wrists with soap for 20 seconds. This is the equivalent of singing happy birthday twice. Rinse your hands and wrists, then dry them with paper towel. Use the paper towel to turn off the faucet or valve to avoid recontamination. Hand sanitizers can be effective on clean hands, but is not a substitute for hand washing when working with food. Washing your hands with soap and water is the single most effective way to prevent the spread of foodborne illnesses. Rule number 4. Ready-to-eat foods may not be touched with bare hands. Gloves, utensils, or other products like deli tissues must be used by the food handler. Ready-to-eat foods are foods that go directly from the food handler to the customer without being cooked. These would include items like buns, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and pickles. Remember to wash your hands prior to donning gloves. It is important to remember that gloves are used to protect food from germs, not your hands from food. So change your gloves often and never wash or reuse gloves. Rule number 5. Food handlers shall wear hair restraints such as hats, visors, or hairnets. Hair restraints help keep hair from falling into and contaminating the food. Rule number 6. No eating, chewing gum, or smoking in the food preparation area. If a food handler is drinking anything in the food preparation or service areas, it must be in a container with a lid on it. It is best to store beverages in areas away from the food and food equipment. Let's review the 6 rules of employee health and hygiene. 1. Never handle food if sick with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fever with a sore throat, or jaundice. 2. Never handle food if diagnosed with any foodborne illness. 3. Wash your hands before working with food or any time they become contaminated. 4. Never touch ready-to-eat food with your bare hands. 5. Wear a hair restraint. And 6. All beverages must be covered with a lid and no eating, chewing gum, or smoking in the food preparation area. Food and water sources. All food served at your event, with a few exceptions, must come from an approved source. Examples of approved sources include, but are not limited to, grocery stores, bakeries, meat markets, wholesale clubs, and food distributors. All food preparation must be done on site. Any foods that are processed or prepared at home are not allowed. One exception to this rule is baked goods which do not require refrigeration. This would include items such as cookies, brownies, cakes, pastries, and some pies. Please contact your local health department if you have any questions if a baked good is approved to be made at home. Whole and uncut produce from home gardens, farm stands, or other sources may also be used for your event. However, all food preparation, like cutting, chopping, and cooking ingredients, must be done on site, not at home or some other unlicensed facility. Water can become contaminated just as easily as food. You must take precautions to ensure that the water you are using is from an approved source and is protected from contamination during use. All water used for the event for hand washing and food preparation must come from an approved source. Examples of approved sources include municipal water, commercially bottled water, or residential well water if it has undergone a bacteria test that was negative within the last year. If you will be using a hose to bring water from the source to the food preparation area, the hose must be made of approved materials. A garden hose is not allowed. Hoses made of approved materials are usually, but not always, white in color, labeled drinking water safe, or marked for marine or recreational vehicle use. These types of hoses are available at local camping supply retailers or hardware stores. When connecting a hose to the water source, there must be a backflow prevention device in place. Backflow protection prevents contaminated water, chemicals, or other waste from being siphoned back into the water supply source. Backflow protection is achieved by installing a vacuum braking device at the hose faucet or utilizing an RPZ valve at the water connection. Hose bib vacuum braking devices are available at most hardware stores. Contact your local licensed plumber about the installation of an RPZ valve. In some circumstances, you may need to connect multiple hoses to go from the water source to the food preparation area. Please note that the point where the two hoses connect should always be off the ground to prevent contamination getting into the water line. An empty bucket or box are both effective methods of raising the connection off the ground. Remember to always obtain your food and water from safe and approved sources. Prepare all food on site and ensure you have the right equipment to protect water sources from contamination. Contamination. Foods and utensils can become contaminated during storage, preparation, and service. It is important to follow all precautions to prevent contamination and keep your customers safe. Some foods, especially raw animal products, such as chicken, beef, pork, seafood, and eggs, can contain harmful biological hazards. Cross-contamination occurs when these harmful biological hazards are transferred to another food, utensil, preparation surface, or even your gloves. Having an organized, designated areas for the safe storage of food will help prevent cross-contamination. Raw animal products, such as poultry, naturally carry many types of biological hazards. Foodborne illness can occur if juices from one raw animal product contaminate another or any ready-to-eat foods. Raw animal products require different final cook temperatures and must be separated from each other during storage to prevent cross-contamination. Shelves should be ordered from lowest cooking temperature to highest, going down. This is done to prevent juices or other liquids from higher temperature cooking foods from contaminating foods that won't reach that temperature. Let's break down what foods should be kept on each shelf. The top shelf should be reserved for ready-to-eat foods. These are foods that will be served without being cooked. Examples include deli meats, cheeses, and salads. Second shelf should be reserved for foods that should be cooked to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. This includes seafood, whole cuts of beef, pork, or lamb, and raw shell eggs. Third shelf should be reserved for foods that should be cooked to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. This includes meat that has been ground, injected, or tenderized, such as sausages. The bottom shelf should be reserved for foods that require the final cook temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, specifically all poultry products, including turkey, duck, and chicken. When storing raw animal products, never commingle any of the different species together in the same container. If you will be storing food in coolers with ice, you must have enough coolers to separate each raw animal species and ready to eat food. For example, you should store raw hamburger meat in one cooler and cheese slices in another. Food and equipment must also be protected from miscellaneous sources of contamination during storage. Some additional storage requirements include: store food and equipment a minimum of 6 inches off of the ground. Store food and equipment away from a splash zone around any water sources. This includes areas around the designated hand washing sink or ware washing area. Store food and equipment above or away from any toxic materials, such as cleaning products. Cross-contamination can also occur during food preparation. It is recommended that you use a separate cutting board for each raw animal type and ready-to-eat foods. Maintain enough space between areas when processing raw animal products to not splash onto surrounding foods. Wipe down counters and table surfaces with a sanitizing solution in between tasks. Sanitizing procedures will be discussed in a later section. Lastly, food and equipment must be protected from contamination during service. Foods and single service items shall be protected from the public by utilizing shields, covers, wrappings, or distance. When serving foods from large containers, you must have enough distance from the public so they are not able to touch, cough, or sneeze on the food. Utilizing a front service table or setting up a sneeze guard are both effective ways to protect the food. When placing condiments out for self-service, you can protect them from customer contamination by using single-service packets, squeeze bottles, pump dispensers, or covered containers. You can protect utensils and other single-service items from customer contamination by wrapping them or storing them with the handle end towards the customer. Outdoor food service is not permitted in areas with exposed sand, gravel, or dirt. To prevent dust and debris from contaminating the food, these materials must be covered with plywood, cardboard, or a tarp. Areas covered in concrete, asphalt, or grass are acceptable. Extensive food preparation must be done inside a building or in a covered and screened-in area to keep insects and birds away from the food. This includes, but is not limited to, cutting, chopping, or assembling foods. Examples include cutting ribs or assembling tacos. Remember to always protect food and equipment from contamination during storage, preparation, and service. Temperature control. Temperature control is the primary method to control bacterial growth in foods. To accurately check food temperatures, you must have a calibrated thermometer. The thermometer must be capable of measuring temperatures between 0 and 220 degrees Fahrenheit. It is important to ensure your thermometer is accurate because some thermometers can easily fall out of calibration. Luckily, calibration is a quick and easy process that ensures your thermometers are working properly. To calibrate your thermometer, you will need a container filled with ice and water. Fill the container nearly to the top with ice, then add enough cold water to just cover the ice. To check the accuracy of an analog dial thermometer, you must make sure that the dimple on the side of the probe is completely submerged in the ice bath. For digital thermometers, it is only necessary to get the tip of the probe into the ice bath. Allow the thermometer to sit for 1 minute before checking its temperature reading. The thermometer should read 32 degrees Fahrenheit. As you can see here, this analog dial thermometer is registering less than 32 degrees. Place the wrench attached to the thermometer's sleeve or a wrench of your own on the nut at the base of the thermometer dial. While holding the nut with the wrench, firmly grasp the face of the dial and rotate the face so that the thermometer aligns to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Check the thermometer's accuracy again and adjust as necessary. If you have a digital thermometer that is not accurate, you should check the owner's manual to determine if it can be adjusted. Discard the thermometer if it cannot. To review: 1. Check your thermometer's calibration often. 2. Fill a container with ice to the top. 3. Add cold water to cover the ice. 4. Allow the thermometer to sit in the ice for 1 minute. 5. Adjust the hex nut so the thermometer reads 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature range in which biological hazards grow best in food is referred to as the danger zone. The danger zone is between 41 and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Foods need to be kept out of this temperature range to prevent foodborne illness. Cold foods must be kept at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Utilize mechanical refrigeration or storage in ice to maintain proper temperatures. We strongly recommend that you avoid the use of residential refrigerators, especially if your event is held outdoors. These types of refrigerators are not designed to meet the needs of preparing large batches of foods or withstanding the door opening frequently. Commercial refrigeration units have a higher capacity to maintain their temperature with frequent door opening and better air circulation. If you are using ice or ice packs to maintain your cold food's temperature, ensure you have an adequate amount at all times to maintain 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. Avoid storing coolers in direct sunlight. Hot foods shall be held at 135 degrees Fahrenheit or above. Utilize grills, ovens, steam tables, Nesco-type roasters, or other approved pieces of equipment. Slow cookers or crock pots are not allowed. Please note that if you will be using multiple Nesco-type roasters, these roasters draw a lot of power and will trip a circuit if multiple units are plugged into one outlet. Foods being hot held should be stirred often to distribute heat evenly. Use a thermometer to check internal food temperatures often throughout the event. When cooking a raw animal product, it is important to reach the proper internal cooking temperatures. These temperatures have been researched and shown to kill harmful biological hazards that may be found in foods. Different animal products have different common biological hazards, so temperatures vary for each type. All poultry products such as chicken, turkey, or any ground poultry product must be cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Ground meat products such as hamburgers and beef or pork sausages must be cooked to an internal temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Eggs or egg dishes, such as a quiche, shall also be cooked to an internal temperature of 155 degrees. Whole cuts of beef, such as a pot roast, whole cuts of pork, like a pork shoulder, and all seafood, shrimp, fish, or lobster, must reach an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Lastly, if you are cooking vegetables to hot hold, you must reach a minimum temperature of 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Many food distribution stores sell products that are pre-cooked. This can include anything from pre-cooked sausages, meatballs, pans of side dishes, or even bags of soup. All of these items were made in a commercial processing plant. Any commercially processed food must be reheated to a minimum of 135 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours. If your event spans several days, you may have food cooled from the day before that you need to reheat. Any foods that have been cooled and reheated to hot hold must be reheated to a minimum temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours. How to take a temperature is just as important as the number to ensure we are getting an accurate reading. When checking a food's internal temperature, insert the thermometer into the thickest portion of the food, avoiding any bones or pockets of fat. Remember, if you are using a thin-probed analog dial thermometer, you must insert the thermometer in so that the dimple is in the center of the food product. Digital probe thermometers only need their tips placed into the center of the food. Another step in preventing foodborne illnesses is the process of thawing foods safely. The safest way to thaw frozen foods is to move them from the freezer to the refrigerator a few days in advance. The only other approved methods are to run the food under cold water or cook it from its frozen state. Never thaw products at room temperature. Cooling foods for later service is not recommended, but, if necessary, foods must move through the danger zone as fast as possible to avoid bacterial growth. Once the food reaches 135 degrees Fahrenheit, it must be cooled down to 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours, and then cooled down to 41 degrees Fahrenheit within a total of 6 hours. If these parameters are not met, it is important to discard those foods. There are several methods for properly cooling items. To start, you should increase the area of the food as much as possible without covering it. Spreading the food out in shallow pans helps release the heat more quickly. Other methods include freezing metal pans prior to cooling, utilizing ice baths or ice wands, adding ice as an ingredient, placing shallow pans of food into a freezer. Never try to cool large and thick portions of food. Let's recap what we learned about temperature control. 1. Use a calibrated thermometer to check food temperatures. 2. Store foods at safe temperatures, avoiding the danger zone. 3. Cook foods to the proper internal temperature. And 4. Reheat foods to their proper temperatures. Remember, corresponding fact sheets are available. Check the links in the description or on our website to download. Cleaning and sanitizing. At home, we are used to washing, rinsing, and drying dishes. But when serving food to the public, we are required to add an additional step: sanitizing. Cleaning with soap and water removes leftover food, grime, and some germs. Sanitizing uses chemicals or heat to kill the germs that remain after cleaning. Always use an approved sanitizer when cleaning and sanitizing your equipment and utensils. If you're not sure if a product is approved for use with food equipment, contact us and we will let you know. Unscented chlorine bleach is an inexpensive and approved sanitizer. This sanitizer should be mixed to a concentration of 100 parts per million, which is approximately 1 tablespoon of bleach in 1 gallon of water. You must provide a chlorine sanitizer test kit to check the concentration of this solution. Quaternary ammonium compound sanitizers are also an approved product. They are commonly referred to as quat sanitizers. These products can be found at stores that serve the food and beverage industry. Quat sanitizing solutions must have a minimum temperature of 75 degrees Fahrenheit and be maintained at a concentration that is specified by the directions on the label. You must provide a quat sanitizer test kit to check the concentration of this solution. Warewashing can be accomplished manually or with the use of a machine. Manual warewashing is done in sinks, washing tubs, or a combination of the two. Manual washing of equipment is accomplished in 5 steps. 1. Remove food waste from the equipment. 2. Wash the items in warm, soapy water. 3. Rinse all the soap and debris off in clear rinse water. 4. Dip all portions of the equipment in the sanitizing rinse. 5. Allow the items to air dry. Mechanical warewashing can be done in commercial warewashing machines only. Residential dishwashers do not correctly sanitize the equipment. There are 2 types of mechanical warewashing machines. The first uses a chemical sanitizing rinse. This type of machine requires the use of the correct sanitizer test kit to verify that the chemical sanitizer is at the proper concentration. High-temperature warewashing machines sanitize with the use of higher wash water and final rinse water temperatures. The surface of the utensil must reach a minimum temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit. This type of machine requires the use of a non-reversible temperature measuring device. Remember to avoid recontaminating the clean equipment and utensils after cleaning. Always wash your hands after handling dirty utensils and before handling clean ones. Always allow utensils to air dry. Do not towel dry, as towels can reintroduce biological hazards to the equipment. Utensils must be washed, rinsed, and sanitized at a minimum every 4 hours as it is being used or whenever the utensil becomes contaminated, such as dropping it on the floor or cutting a raw animal product. Wiping cloths should be used to sanitize surfaces in between uses. The wiping cloths should be stored in a sanitizing solution when not in use. You can use the same sanitizer product you use for sanitizing your equipment, but the wiping cloths should be stored in their own container, not in the sanitizing solution used for warewashing. Never add soap to the sanitizer and change the solution in the sanitizer bucket often since dirt, grease, and food particles make the sanitizer less effective. Let's summarize what we learned about cleaning and sanitizing. You must have the proper supplies to thoroughly clean and sanitize all of your food equipment. This includes, but is not limited to, wiping cloth containers, mechanical or manual warewashing facilities, detergent, chemical sanitizers, and sanitizer test kits. Equipment shall be washed, rinsed, and sanitized at least once every 4 hours or any time it becomes contaminated. Do not recontaminate equipment after it is cleaned. Sanitize work surfaces in between tasks and keep wiping cloths in a bucket of sanitizer when not in use. This concludes our basic food safety training. You should now have the knowledge to safely store, prepare, and serve food to the public. Remember, there are corresponding fact sheets available for much of the information covered in today's video. Please check the links in the description or on our website to download. To receive a certificate of completion, please complete the brief food safety quiz below and receive a passing score of at least 90%. Certificates are typically emailed out within 3 business days.